Hello, this is our Rats. I'm in a Slamato elimination tournament. Just thought I'd give it a try because I saw it was there. So, it's my opponent's move. He needs to move. Okay, so let's see what happens. Well, 30 seconds gone. Thanks for the free time. Okay, d4. I'll play Chigorin. Defense, if he allows it. He probably plays bishop f4 here, which I've faced many times. I'm not too worried about that. I just play bishop g4 anyway, which I'll play if he plays c4. So, just waiting for him to move. Okay. I'll try not to get in time trouble here. But I do want to try to explain some of the ideas of this opening. I wish he'd play c4 so I can explain the Chigorin defense. Come on, play c4. You could probably play e3. Oh, you play bishop f4. See, I told you. Okay, now bishop g4. Okay, so eventually I'll be playing knight f6, e6, bishop d6. In some cases I even go for an f5 in here, but with due preparation. I have to watch out for a few tricks. Certain exchanges on e5 where he ends up getting a queen a4 check and picking up my bishop. Okay, I'm just going to bring the bishop back. I could take and double up his pawns, but I don't see any reason to just give up the bishop so willingly. So we'll see what happens when we get there, huh? Okay, so e3, good move for him. I'll play e6. g4, of course, I'll play bishop g6. One drawback with playing h3 is when I eventually play bishop d6, he doesn't have bishop g3 to drop back to. Okay, and I'm going to take his knight. Okay, took with the bishop. That's fine. Now, how do we want to do this? If I play e6, I can't play bishop d6 because g7 falls. So I'm going to kick the bishop out and slow play it. The knight will come into play by e7 after eventual bishop d6. And at some point I'd like to get e5 in, but not yet. Okay, so he can't play e3 because his queen would hang. So he might try g4. He might try knight d2 and knight f3. But I'm going to play bishop d6 next, pending no other difficulties here. If his queen ever gets out to b3, I'll be playing c6 and queen b6. Okay, so very predictable. He did play knight d2. Now I'm going to play bishop d6. I got to get my develop complete. And if he trades, I'll take back with the queen, so I'll pre-move that. I've got nearly a 2-minute advantage on the clock. Okay, so he still can't play e3. But like I said, he can play g4, and I'm not worried at all about that move. Knight b3. Okay, what's he trying to do? If his knight gets to c5, I can kick it out with b6, right? And where does it go? Back to d3. That's fine. Okay, so I'll just play knight e7 here. Okay, now he's on the bishop, so g6 is a better square than f7. No need to retreat it. Now at some point, he's going to be castling, and I'm going to have to figure out which side I want to castle on. So I might just hold castling off just to discourage him from trying to, after I castle kingside, discourage him from castling queenside and then trying to get a ready-made attack against me. I'd like to play e5 in here. That's what I'd like to play. That gets a little bit of space on in the center for me. there anything I should worry about? I can also prepare b6 and c5. So I've got a lead in development. I've got my queen and bishop out. He doesn't. And I'm ready to castle. He isn't. So since he doesn't even have a direct attack anywhere on my king, this is a position where I can actually delay castling and wait until he does, and I'll just improve my position a little bit by bit. I could be playing b6 with the idea of an eventual c5. Okay, so bishop g2, he's probably planning to castle kingside. Okay, but if I play b6, he might think I'm playing for c5, and he may not want to castle queenside. Queen d2, c5, triple zero. Okay, b6, queen d2, c5, triple zeros. And I take on d4, maybe, and go attack c2. And he really doesn't have... It's going to take him a while to get a kingside attack. Okay, so b6 with the idea of c5. Now if he castles short on the king side, I'll just castle also. Okay, he didn't castle yet. Okay, so now, do I want to break with c5 or e5? Okay, if I play c5 and he takes, I take with the pawn. He can play e4 because there's a pin, and then I can play rook d8, and I'm threatening to win the pawn, and I just take back with a knight on d5 if he takes on d5. Okay, c5 it is. Let's let him worry a little bit about what's going on here. I still have about a 2-minute advantage on the clock, for what that's worth. I have a couple pawns on white squares on d5 and e6, which is the same color as my bishop. He's got a pawn chain on dark squares, so in some type of endings I don't want to go into a bishop ending if my bishop's going to be weaker than his. But he's got a couple of pawns for now on white squares on the king side, so, and I've got a pawn chain on dark squares on the queen side. So there's some pluses and minuses in here. Okay, he's clearly planning to castle queenside, so okay. This is a position where maybe I could play e5. Of course, if I play c4 here, his knight is stuck. It has to go back to c1, which delays him castling. He's got to redeploy it to e2 to do that. And then I can, okay, c4, rook, c4, knight c1, rook c8, knight e2, stopping me from playing c3, in which case I can play knight c6 with the idea of knight b4, which will molest his pawns. I'm just going to frustrate him. I want to make this guy castle kingside. My friend, you're not going to be attacking me on my king side. Okay, so now knight c6, and the idea is to play knight b4, but he'll probably play c3, which is fine because I'll prepare e5 and strike him in the center. Well, that's hot. Okay, so knight c6. Now I'm planning knight b5, or knight b4, which is embarrassing for him, and he's allowed it. Okay, so where's he going I should worry about? I'm not worried if knight f4. Knight b4, if he plays knight f4, I play knight takes c2 check, and I win some stuff. Okay, so knight b4, what are you going to do? I don't think you have a good move here. If you castle queenside, I take on a2 with check. Have a minute and a half on the clock and a decent game. He can play e4 here, but that doesn't really help him. c3, I'm almost tempted to play knight d3 check rather than knight c2 check, but of course knight c2 check is the better move, and I can put my bishop on d3 if I want, although I could chase it out with knight f4. Okay, so let's see. 2-minute advantage on the clock. 2 minutes is better than 0 minutes. Or 2 minutes ahead is better than 2 minutes behind. Okay, rook c1. Okay, now he can't castle queenside. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get him to stop from castling queenside. Stop him from that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take on a2 and attack his rook. Now I've won a pawn. And I'll just put the knight back on b4. And he's welcome to kick it with c3. Because I'll go back and play knight c2 check. Okay, good. So I've got him a little bit bamboozled here. I've won a pawn, and he can no longer castle queenside. So the next step is I need to prepare e5. e5 has the idea that I'm going to break open. Well, what am I going to break open? You know, I could play here to really mess him up is h5. And then if he castles, then I take on g4, and he can't take back because I have mate. Because on h5 he plays knight f4, and I can't take on I can't take on g4 because my bishop falls, but I can bring the bishop back to f7, then he can take on h4 and h5, and we have some wholesale exchanges. Okay, let's see. Just trying to find a simple way to pick up another advantage here off of this guy. I can always just leave my king there and play a5. The idea is I'm going to shove that pawn down to a3. What happens when I get there? He takes it, and I take with the rook, and I haven't really gained anything except open up the file and weaken my pawn on b6. So h5, knight f4. Well, let's see. I can play e5 now, and that takes f4 away from his knight. And then if he castles, then I can play h5. And I kind of like that. Because, and if he goes back to knight c3, e5, knight c3, well, he's not really, or d takes, e takes, knight c3, now he's on d5. And I can always play rook d8. And then when he castles short, I play h5. Okay, e5 it is. And now I've used too much time. I've got to move a little quicker. Okay, e5. Let's see what he does. So here I've deliberately delayed castling, and now it's come with reason, because I might just leave my king in the center and attack him. So he was trying to attack me and castle queenside, and I stopped that. And now I want him to castle kingside, where I'll be attacking him, and I'll do that by leaving my king on e8. He could play knight g3 here. I don't mind that. Okay, he castled. Now I'm going to go about my business. h5. Okay, now I want to take on g4 and push my e-pawn or exchange it and mate him. But I don't think it's going to be that easy. But that's what I want to do. Okay, he has stopped that cold. Now he wants on d5. Well, that's fine. I take on g4 first, and if he takes on d5, I'll just take, and I'll take his bishop to take and trade queens, and I'll win another pawn. It's that simple. Okay, I got 7 minutes left. Okay, now if I play e4 here, that gives him the d4 square, it gives him the f4 square, so I'm not really threatening anything he should worry about. He's piling all over d5 now. He's on it 3 times. So how about if I play rook d8 here, just to mess him up? Okay, so where's he going? Not too worried where he's going. How about if I just go attack a pawn, just for the sake of attacking a pawn? Queen e6. Oops, that hangs a knight, doesn't it? Okay, can't do that. Alright. I can just castle finally. Matter of fact, I think I just will. I'll just castle. He's not going to let me mate him. Or do I want to play e5, d4 here? That gives his knight e4. Yeah, I'll just castle. It's time to castle. There's maybe some potential attacks on f2. Nothing set up yet, but there's some possibilities of it. Like I could play queen f6 and offer him my knight. He takes it, I take on f2, he goes to h2, and I gotta find a follow-up. Rook f3. Yeah, probably not enough there. Okay, I have less time than he does, so I'm going to have to move a little quicker now. We're down to a 5-minute game. Okay, I don't mind that because that helps me a little bit. This is a position where, since I'm a pawn ahead, I can give him the bishop pair and sit fine. Okay, so let's see. Let me just take it and play a5, solidify my knight. Okay, the purpose of solidifying my knight is that frees my queen. Okay, now I'm going to give back the pawn. Well, I don't have to give back the pawn, but I'm going to. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to go threaten a pawn with check. I take advantage of some pins here. Put y'all on pins and needles. Okay, so I've tactically messed this up. And now the next step is to secure f3. I want to plant a rook there to cut off his communication of the queen protecting the g-pawn. I guess I haven't messed this up. It's one nice thing when you're a pawn ahead, you can just give one back or blunder one back and still have a terrific game. He's got some problems here. Rook f3 is my threat, which cuts off the communication to his pawn on g4. I have a couple weak pawns, b6 and d5, but he's not primed to go after either one very conveniently. So now we play rook f3, and if he is not careful, he's going to get checkmated here. Okay, I don't mind that move. I can play king f7 here, the threat being rook check, and, well, let's see. I don't want his king getting back to f1 too conveniently, so what if I just play queen h3 check? Doesn't that just do him in? Or queen h6 check? Where's it go? King g2? I have queen h3 mate, right? What's he do? And you are mated. One rating point. That cracks me up. Well, thanks for the game, Isolani. I wish you best in the next round, but I don't think you have a next round. It was an elimination event. Okay. Have a nice day. And thanks for your time for watching. I have another round coming up shortly.